those that have a sense of unworthiness tend to be givers, over-givers, and they attract takers. This is really important to know in relationship. So if you're a giver, to really balance it out, and we have to learn to receive, because if we don't receive, first of all, it doesn't complete the circle of love, and it pushes the other person away. But you have to know you're worthy to receive.
Our guest today is an intuitive coach, gifted wordsmith, and an inspiring teacher who has been leading clients through transformation for more than 20 years. She's also the author of 2 books, Cancer as a Love Story, Developing the Mindset for Living, and also To Hell and Back, Healing Your Way Through Transition. She's appeared as a guest worthiness coach nationally on CBS's Emmy award-winning talk show, The Doctors, as well as Sirius XM Radio. Welcome to the show, Worthiness Expert, my friend, Coach Gail Jones.
Mike, I'm thrilled to be here with you today on your show and shared my worthiness message and platform and whatever else you inspire me to dig up.
Yeah, well, that's why I wanted you here. You've become a friend. Obviously, we've been working together at Social Chameleon. We'll share a little bit about that. But I really want people to know, we'll talk about the transformation that I've had working with you in only 90 minutes, right? So we had a kind of a quick session together, and it made such a difference. So that's why I wanted to bring that to my audience. I know that my audience can definitely benefit from it. A lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of high stress, moving in 18 different directions at the same time, people tuning into the show. So I definitely feel like we can center them today. And also worthiness is something personally I struggle with. And I know a lot of people I talk to, that seems to be something that kind of gets pushed away, and they're like, yeah, I need to work on it. But so having you today is bringing it to the forefront. So thank you so much for being with us.
And I just want to say something on everybody having a worthiness issue.
Yeah.
That's usually formed the first 6 to 7 years of life based on subconscious limiting beliefs. But even if we had an ideal childhood or weren't impacted by the messages that were not enough by society, every time we up-level in our lives and grow, the worthiness comes up again. Am I good enough for this next step? Am I an imposter? So we revisit worthiness over and over again throughout our lives.
Yeah.
And again, we did nothing wrong. We just didn't get the basic messaging of being seen, heard, validated, and acknowledged for who we are, not what we do. So,
yeah, that's so good. And I was recently producing an episode with 2 gentlemen, highly successful in their own right, having a conversation and talking about how, and one of the hosts was actually talking about how as a child, he had to put on this mask of, because he was in Brooklyn and he was supposed to be a tough guy, and like his environment kind of dictated what he was supposed to be. And he wore this mask, and he ended up being a boxer and a prize fighter and all this stuff. And inside he was definitely not feeling that. He was feeling he didn't have, he wasn't, able to emotionally express how he was feeling. And so that kind of can tie into worthiness as well. When you're wearing all these masks, trying to be someone who you're really not, you don't really feel worthy because you haven't really been yourself. So I want people to check out claimyourworthiness.com. It's all clickable in the show notes, as well as Gail's social media. So you don't have to worry about spelling anything, typing it in. Go ahead, click on the show notes, and you'll be able to get into Gail's, a little bit of her story, her coaching, her books. It's all there for you.
Mike, I just want to go back to that point you made. I remember when I was getting ready to go on national TV as the Worthiness Coach, because that's kind of a new niche. That was my niche I created as the Worthiness Coach. But I remember a very successful publicist saying to me, make sure you don't focus on worthiness as somebody who, is just walking wounded. Some of the most highly successful people have the greatest sense of lack of worthiness because they've used external circumstances to define them versus building the inner sense of worthiness, which does not come from outside. It comes from within. And even looking at the mental health crisis in our country right now with youth, and we hear these young athletes when they couldn't perform anymore and the high suicide rates, so much of their life was validated by how they performed, not by who they are. And even as parents, it's the one thing I would like every parent to know, to acknowledge your children for who they are, not just what they do. So that means when they're walking by or you see them during the day, I love you because you're so kind. I love that you're creative. I love your sense of humor. Find qualities about your children that you like, not just based on performance.
Really, really good. I'm a father of a beautiful 7-year-old girl, Gail, Isabel now. And thank you. And I'm mindful of that. And I try to, something I learned from Ed Milet, he recently interviewed his children, and they shared that this is something he's done well as a parent, is things like that many times are caught, not taught. So instead of sitting there going, I'm going to stop Isabel right now in her tracks and try to give her all these affirmations where it kind of either seems more premeditated or, kids pick up on body language. If I'm trying to teach her a lesson and I do something and she's catching what I'm doing, I'm counting up to 10, I'm doing different things. She'll catch that. She'll learn that through watching me. But then if I say, what's 10 plus 9? And she's not in school mode in her head, she gets frustrated. She's like, Dad, we're playing dolls right now. We're not, we're not doing math. And she gets mad. But if in the story, I incorporate it and we learn that, hey, we got a field trip with your Barbies and they're all hopping in the Barbie bus and they're, we need 19 kids, at the front door. They only allow 20 in plus a chaperone. And she'll count, she'll do math with me. But when it's not kind of, I don't want to say forced because I would never do that. But
when it's spontaneous, it's a lot more meaningful. And also, as parents, we're here to parent our kids and guide them and mentor them. But it's very important to notice what they do right and not always be correcting them. It's another way to help build a greater sense of worthiness. Yeah, that's really, really good. So speaking of all this, I want to give you some love and accolades here. People who haven't met you yet before, they need to know that I want to say congratulations because you've been recognized for your amazing work. I'm going to say this out of the gates here 3 times. Maria Shriver, you've been in her Sunday paper, right? And you've also been published in Brains Magazine. So both of those opportunities are truly amazing. I can confidently say it because, like I said, I've worked with you. I've seen your work firsthand, but I'd love you to share a little bit about when did the awareness and focus for you become worthiness? Was there a moment when you said, this is my lane. This is where I really want to be spending my time? My coaching business is 20 years old. It originally started called supportmatters.com. And I rebranded it 2 years ago around worthiness after diving deep for 9 years into worthiness. So when I was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2012, I did an alternative route combined with conventional, but explored many different healing modalities. And 3 different healers, including a naturopath doctor, a shaman, and another medical health professional, all told me within 2 weeks that claiming my worthiness to live can extend my longevity. And I thought, wow, if claiming your worthiness to live can extend your longevity, what else can claim your worthiness do? Wow. So I took a deep dive and went back over my life and realized, as I was rebuilding my worthiness again, realized that I was highly successful. I was editor of the College Award-winning news magazine, a high-tech PR exec, all this stuff. But underneath, I was really a scared little kid that was running on fight or flight from having had a schizophrenic mom, overcompensating, wanting to prove my worth to the world, which isn't how it's done. And then I did a reflection of my clients over the past 20 years. And when most of them come to me and they're stuck, whether it's relationship, money, career, underneath is often a lack of worthiness. And so I really got clear on how you instill a sense of worthiness. And 2 things I want to make sure people understand is not having enough worthiness you did nothing wrong. Mm-hmm. You just weren't told the first 6 to 7 years of life. And we're not here to blame our parents because they weren't modeled it either. You just weren't seen, heard, validated, and acknowledged for who you are. And that can be as simple. As little kids, you don't have discernment skills till ages 7 to 12. So what you see before you, 0 to 6, you make it about you. You don't know that it's not you. So for example, if you have a parent that is working all the time and they come home and they're really busy and not paying attention to you, you can make it a belief that you don't matter and you're not worthy, when actually it's just that they're really busy and they're under a deadline. So they absorb those things the first 6 to 7 years of life. So I say the journey of claiming worthiness is done with love and compassion. And the other thing I would just say is a lot of people, in the personal growth and development and a lot of entrepreneurs that are always trying to improve themselves, you can read all the books, you can go to all the presentations, but to really ingrain a sense of worthiness, you have to be lovingly witnessed by another human being who's competent to do that. And that's why I create 6-week programs, just on worthiness, besides other things I do in coaching. Yeah. So, and also 85% of people have an issue with self-esteem in one area of life, whether it's relationship, work, career, health. So again, knowing where that weakness is helps as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, helping people identify it too. I mean, that's before we can course correct anything, we really need to first realize it. And working with a coach like yourself, someone may come to you for one thing, and then in talking to them, you realize there's maybe this worthiness part to it, right? Or some other layers to it that they didn't self-identify. So how would they course correct it? And a lot of times, even if they do identify it, like myself in the past with certain things I want to get over, I don't know. I didn't study it for 9 years, so it's important to work with a coach. I mean, you've also trained with HeartMath coaches globally too on your worthiness. Talk about that. I mean, what was that experience like?
I was hired by HeartMath UK to train 250 of their coaches on my signature presentation, which is called The Journey to the Heart of Worthiness. And what's really cool about that, and I'd like to talk more about this today too, is I did live EFT, emotional freedom technique, which is a tool I use, which I had used with you. Mm-hmm. And it was really profound what happened online, globally, when all these people were tapping together. And so a lot of those coaches were trained in my platform, and then they were able to train their clients. And a lot of them hired me personally to train them, because we all have a little crack somewhere that can, be resolved with instilling a greater sense of worthiness.
Yeah. And I want to say too, guys, everybody tuning in, thank you first of all, for being with us on YouTube or Apple, Spotify, wherever you're tuning in today. iHeartRadio, so it's talking about our heart, right? Let's give a shout out to iHeart. But this is very, very real. Like when Gail talks about EFT tapping, it's funny because there's something in our brain called the RAS, the reticular activating system, which is basically always solving for things that are familiar to us or that we're kind of familiar with and have seen. It's like, why when you buy the new car, you drive off the lot and you start to recognize and see that same make and model all over on the road. And EFT is something that on other podcasts that I've been tuning into for quite some time came up a couple times. And then I met Gail and she talks about EFT and I'm like, okay, I got to know more about this because my RAS is buzzing right now. So, and I want to say it was one of the most transformational experiences that I've ever had was that EFT session again. And my stress levels before and after were polarizing. So, I mean, in the 90 minutes we spent together, you really, through that practice, again, EFT is emotional freedom technique, correct?
Right. Sure, so I want to stress a couple things about this too. You can go online and Google EFT. You can download scripts. What makes the way I do EFT unique is I've been a writer for 40 years. Yeah. So the more specific and customized the statements are, the more impactful it is. So when I do an EFT session on you, I'm not giving the same script to the person at 2:00 or 4:00 or 6:00. It's highly customized to where I am with my intuition, seeing the blocks in you and creating. So you release the negative limiting beliefs that hold you back, but then I create empowering, instilling words that are very customized just to you. Mm-hmm. So, and it's just a world of difference than just downloading a script and doing EFT.
Right. It's a personal connection too. You knew, I believe it, whether it was right at the beginning of the session or maybe a previous conversation we had, I got real with you. I shared some personal things that you knew what I was looking to overcome and break free from and different things that were kind of holding me down. So I wouldn't get that in a YouTube video. They wouldn't have any connection to me at all. So it definitely is a personalized approach that you take and then customizing the language, let's call it, of the EFT. But there's still people tuning in right now going, what the hell is EFT? So can you give us, without maybe doing a session or anything, but explain.
I would love to do a live session.
I know. Well, I'm going to have you back again and we'll get a longer time, more time together during the interview. Yeah. But if you can walk us through kind of what it looks like or, what the experience is like. Yeah.
Sure. So first of all, it's endorsed by major doctors. Mark Hyman, one of the leading functional doctors in the country, 12 times New York Times bestseller, said this is the go-to. So it's an energy psychology tool. And when it was first used, people think it was this new agey thing, but now we know that it's really impactful. And let me just explain how in a more useful way. So we hear a lot about law of attraction or manifesting money and all of those things, but you can put out what you want and your intentions, but you can't override the trauma or drama that's in your body just by putting out an intention. The body, it's still there. So what EFT does is you tap on the negative. There are 9 meridian points on the body that you're tapping on the Chinese meridian points. And it's bringing the trauma drama to the awareness and you're tapping it out. So it seems contrary that you talk about something negative, but it's there. To pretend it's not there doesn't work. So you're tapping on it. So I'll just show you the points really quick. This is the karate chop. And then you go to the inner brow, outer brow, under eye, under nose, chin, collarbone, underarm, and top of head. That's the basic. But if you're stressed, you'd be tapping on the word stressed. But the more specific the stress can be, like, I'm stressed because my wife just left me. I'm stressed because I don't have enough money to pay bills. So you make the statement very specific around that. Mm-hmm. But what I do different, I think, from a lot of EFT practitioners is I spend a lot of time after doing the clearing of creating empowering new beliefs based on my training in neuroscience, the elevated emotions that change the brain. Mm-hmm. And if you ask somebody, so based on neuroscience, I train with Dr. Joe Dispenza, world-renowned expert on.
I love Dr. Joe.
Yeah. So to oversimplify, but the basics of that is a clear intention plus an elevated emotion is how we create anew. First of all, to get a clear intention can take up to 4 months, 5 months. It's not something you just do in a day. You know, when I do my vision boards based on neuroscience, sometimes they take me 4 months to create, to get 6 images up there that I want to focus on. Mm-hmm. So the clear intention plus the elevated emotion. But most people, when they're in a stressful or in a state of angst, they don't know what the elevated emotion is. So how are they going to focus on it? Mm-hmm. So we know, like, certain emotions shift, like, well, with certain words, gratitude. Oh, and the other thing I always have my clients do is put the words in capital letters. The brain sees best in capital letters. So focusing on gratitude, and I know that's a big word for you, Mike.
Yeah.
And, joy and love and enthusiasm, those kinds of words, compassion, change the story. Mm-hmm. But when you're in it, it's very hard to get out of it yourself. So that having someone lead you and put the empowering words in. And for example, if we were doing EFT around your business, I would help tap in after blocking, you know, the growth pains or whatever, tap in very intentional, elevated words. And these get downloaded to me. I don't know how to say, it's like a gift. I don't come with a script. It's very intuitive. I listen deeply. And then I just hear word after word after word that's geared to the client in front of me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you do a great job. You're a great listener. Great coaches are amazing listeners, and you have that gift. But you have the gift of not just listening, but then downloading, like you said, and then turning it around into meaningful work with your client. So it's not, something that would be a bad situation for coaches, that they get all this information, they don't know what to do with it. You quickly take it, turn it around, and are turning it into like live practice with your clients right away. So I've experienced it. Again, I want anybody who, this isn't an infomercial necessarily. I don't like to do that on the show, but I am saying if somebody right now feels, wow, I need this, reach out to Gail, connect with me if you're not connected with Gail, and I'll get you in touch with Gail. But this is a very real thing that works. And something you said that I want to make sure we don't just run past is, you kind of talk out the negative. Mm-hmm. You said it kind of seems counterintuitive in coaching to focus on negative, because we usually say don't focus on that and focus on the positive. But it's almost like, this may be over dramatic, but it's like attacking the beast, right? And like you have to acknowledge it before you can take it down. Pretending it's not there isn't going to help anybody. It's still there. So you're actually like coming at it. And you're like, I see you, where you're hiding, you're inside, you're holding me down. You got the shackles on. We're coming after you. We're going to tap this thing out. It's almost like it's coming out of you. It kind of feels like
it is coming out of you. Yeah. You're releasing it from the body. So one thing I would tell people is the next 24 to 48 hours, it's really important to drink a lot of water. Mm-hmm. It is being released from the body. And the other thing is that you see the shifts right away, because when you start EFT, like say we do stress on a scale of 0 to 10, how stressed are you? We tap until we get it to 3 or under.
Yeah.
And underneath each of those rounds of tapping, there's another layer often. Like you think you're stressed about your job, but it could be you're stressed about something that happened when you were 7 years old. I get to that. So I get to that in each session. So it's released from your body, and there's a sense of freedom and a lightness, and pretty quickly.
I felt it. It's very real. The thing is that now I need to do is go one step further, is not have it be a once a month thing. Have it be daily or where it's just like going to the gym. So basically I got like this great workout in, man, I felt juiced up. I felt so good. And then life happened. And guess what? All these new things came into the cracks of myself. So I definitely will be working with you more closely on that and doing something that could be more repetitive over time and kind of have it as like a maintenance program opposed to kind of like letting it build up and then we got to like attack the dinosaur. Like taking
and just another thing, because this is part of coaching too. Like my coaching packages are usually 6 weeks, 3 months, but people that have worked with me, I will say, when you get triggered, call me, because a trigger is where the gift is. And that's when we'll do an EFT too, like in between or like after we've finished a coaching program. Yeah. They might call me once a week and go, I just got triggered on this. So before it becomes a belief, before it holds you back, we'll just do the clearing with the EFT. So it's a tool for life.
It's really good. It's like anything before the pain can become, I just made this up. It sounds good. Before the pain can become a stain. Never heard of that before, but that's true. Like if you just let it sit there on the carpet, it's in your soul, it'll stain. But someone's feeling like, oh no, there's this damage, and you're like, let me come in there, get it out of there before it can leave a mark, and we don't even.
Excellent.
So that's really good. We do have to take a quick time out. We're going to give our sponsors some love here. 2 minutes. We'll be right back with Gail.
Podcasting is a great way to engage with your audience and stay consistently relevant. The only problem is you don't have the time or desire to produce your own show. You simply want it done for you, and that's where Social Chameleon comes in. All you need to do is press record and upload the files. We'll handle the rest. From planning, production, post-production, distribution, and digital marketing, we have you covered. We realize that times are tough and funds are tight, and Social Chameleon believes in building supportive business relationships. By clicking on the link in this promo, we'll provide you 7 free podcasting tips to get started, as well as a free 30-minute online consultation. This is the perfect opportunity for entrepreneurs, keynote speakers, industry experts, influencers, and anybody who has a personal brand. With Social Chameleon, we help you build a brand that is out of this world. We're ready and waiting, so what are you waiting for? Click on the link to get started today. Hey guys, it's Mike. I'd like to give a proper shout out to Navigator Bookkeeping. Look, for a long time, I ran my business without really understanding the full financial picture. I used my gut and my bank account balance to make decisions, which led to some poor choices and constant stress over my business's finances. I knew something needed to change. At the beginning of 2021, I made a decision that helped pave a more clear path for my business. I started working with Navigator Bookkeeping. Since then, my bookkeeping has been handled for me. I now understand the full financial story of my business, making important financial decisions much easier now, and it helps me plan for where my business is going. I highly recommend giving Navigator Bookkeeping an opportunity to help your business. Check them out at navigatingyourbooks.com. Again, that's navigatingyourbooks.com. It's time to know the full financial story of your business.
All right, we're back in action with Gail Jones. It's Coach Gail Jones. You guys can check her out on social media. I have her website there, clickable in the show notes as well, so you guys can connect with her. And I know that she's very active on LinkedIn. Every Monday morning, I see that she has her Monday morning worthiness post, and I love it because it's one of the first things I see when I get up in the morning. So, Gail, I don't know if I've ever shared that with you, but it's something that I look forward to every Monday, and I look forward to all your social media content because it is moving. You don't post to post because you feel like, oh, it's Tuesday, I got to do this. It's Monday, I got to do this. You do it with purpose, and I really appreciate you.
Thank you. Yeah. So I want to say something to everybody too, with all we've been through in the world. A way to really empower yourself, to really bring it back to that innate worthiness that we are born worthy, and it just got conditioned out of us, or we didn't get conditioned enough of it. But right now, with all the craziness in the world, it's really important not to focus on your circumstances, whether they're good or bad, because that's focusing on something external. And as soon as you do that, you're giving away your power. Mm-hmm. So if you're going through a challenging time right now, it's temporary. If you're going through a great time, it's also temporary, right? We have to continually recreate. But I think it'd be really helpful for everyone to take their focus off the external circumstances in the world and understand within each of us is an innately worthy, beautiful, empowered human being. And we have access to that. And we access that most in quiet. And people are so afraid sometimes to sit and be still. But just 20 minutes a day of being still can help you ingrain a greater sense of worthiness. And also, when we're in a place in our lives where things aren't happening or not happening as fast as we like, that's when the monkey mind goes in and starts telling us all these negative things, right? Like, oh God, what am I doing wrong? Why isn't this happening? When sometimes there's a bigger plan for you. But what you tell yourself in that time is really important. So I use allowing statements with my clients versus affirmations. And I do that for two reasons. So let's just play with, I allow myself to know I'm worthy. I recommend everybody say that first 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes before they go to bed at night. Most important 5 minutes of the day are the 5 minutes before you go to bed at night. You're downloading the software into the brain. That's what's going to get churned around. But if I say I am worthy and I don't believe it yet, it creates some resistance. So I allow myself to know I'm worthy builds a bridge in the brain to form the new neural pathway. And I could just liken it to when my first book came out. If I said I'm a best-selling author, that doesn't happen usually in the first book. I didn't even know what I was doing with my first book.
Yeah.
But when I changed it to I allow myself to be a best-selling author, I allowed the whole universe to support me. It wasn't this push, will. And it just freed it up. It just freed up the possibility. And it was very expansive versus demanding.
Yeah.
And allowing, to me, is just so powerful because there's such grace in the world there for us. If we step aside and get out of our way with our limited thinking and allow it in. Yeah. So I would highly recommend people 20 minutes a day of quiet. I allow myself to know I'm worthy. 5 minutes, first 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes before to bed, and throughout the day a couple of times is very important. And when you make time for yourself, you're also making yourself a priority, which is telling yourself you're worthy.
Is this something you recommend too? I'm thinking about like when I put Isabel to bed, I usually read her a story and she makes me make up a story that's not in a book, but like we have this goofy thing we do. A lot of times it's like involving counting to help her fall asleep. But I wonder, I'd love to do something where we start to instill this in her. She's 7. And I know you said the age where people are kind of already downloaded their belief in themselves is around that age. So,
well, here's another tip I'd give for you and Isabel that I did with my kids. And this was before I was a coach, but I think it really impacted them. Knowing that before they go to bed. So I would tuck them in and then I'd read them a story, just like you do with Isabel. And then I would ask them, what was the best part of your day? When they got home from school, they could have told me they flunked a test, didn't make the team, they were upset. But when they went to bed, I always asked them, what was the best part of your day? And that's what they went to bed thinking about.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Ooh, that's good. That's simple and good. That's really powerful. Really, really good stuff here. I know we're kind of running out of time with you, and I appreciate you being here today. Something that I talked about at the very top of this interview, and we talked a little bit about it intertwined, but I want to make sure people know how inspirational your story is. I mean, you're a cancer survivor. Anybody who can say that, it's an amazing, inspirational story. What I love about your journey is that you put it into these 2 books, again, talking about the mindset to overcome it, right? Focusing on battling cancer, but living is right in the title of the book. And then also kind of, to hell and back, that whole mindset that you've been through it. But here's why I want to bring it up. I find it fascinating that you and I admire this about you. You took a natural approach, right? I don't want to put words in your mouth. So a natural, more healing approach. Can you share how you got through cancer and then how your approach was maybe different than what most doctors would recommend?
Yep. So I'm 10 years cancer-free, just so you know.
Cheers to that. Awesome. I
did not do the radiation or drugs.
Yeah.
I did have the lumpectomy. I did have the tumor removed. And then I made a commitment, and I was never a rebel. I always went to the doctor. I always said, just my intuition said, don't do it. I don't know why. It just kept on coming back. When I was diagnosed, I walked the beach every day for 3 days, 3 weeks crying, going, what do I do? What do I do? And there was nothing in that told me to do the radiation. It was a tough decision. And I remember even sharing it with my son, who was 15 at the time. And his first comment to me was, why would you put poison in your body? I was surprised that a 15-year-old would say that. I just want to say I've coached a lot of cancer clients. The book, even my book, everyone says is fairly balanced between conventional and alternative. I've coached people with chemo, radiation, so there's no judgment. I was early stage. So if I was stage 4, I might have made different decisions. I had a 15 and 19-year-old at the time. I was making very deep decisions for many reasons. So my path was, I went to Arizona for 3.5 years to finish my book, Cancer is a Love Story. It was a 5-year journey. And I trained with Dr. Joe Dispenza when I was there. He was in Tempe at the time, and he was teaching us how to use your mind to heal your body. And I did other modalities. One of them was working with a shaman who literally shook the stress out of my body. And another key thing I would share about that journey that I would love everyone to know so they don't get cancer. Well, there's so many things so they don't get cancer on the emotional piece, but it's really important to forgive. If you hold anger and rage in your body, it does create disease. And we don't talk enough about that. And also, I feel whether you do conventional or alternative, you have to do the emotional distress of your body. And one of the things I learned from my research, I was in the mind-body program for cancer for 3 months at Mass General Hospital. And I was interviewing the patients, the participants for my book. They gave me permission. I was working my book at the time. But one of the trends they were seeing, and my second opinion breast surgeon told me this as well, is that the 3 years before a woman is diagnosed with breast cancer are often off the charts stressful years. So if I look at the 3 years before I was diagnosed, it was a recession in 2008. I had to, sell my house at a much loss compared to what I would have. I was assigned schizophrenic. I was assigned legal guardianship of my schizophrenic mom when I had 2 teenagers. And there was some other financial crisis. Like on the scale of 0 to 10, I had all the 10 stressors. But everybody I interviewed said the same thing. The 3 years before, they were elder care and child care, so they were the sandwich generation. So it's really important when you get in those stressful states to not wait, to deal with the stress in the moment. And again, I'll just go back. I didn't know EFT back then. EFT is a beautiful tool to stop the stress from accumulating. And the other thing is, one of the biggest things I had to learn was to say no. A lot of people that get cancer are in the helping professions, teachers, nurses, and a lot of givers. And learning to say no and make yourself a priority. And no is the end of a sentence. And I had to make myself a priority to get well. And I just want to go back to the unworthiness piece and worthiness too. Those that have a sense of unworthiness tend to be givers, overgivers, and they attract takers. This is really important to know in relationship. So if you're a giver, to really balance it out, and we have to learn to receive, because if we don't receive, first of all, it doesn't complete the circle of love, and it pushes the other person away. But you have to know you're worthy to receive.
Wow. That I've done over 150 episodes, and that one really hits me as a dagger. And thinking about people that I love in my life, I think of my mother, I think of myself and others that have kind of a, yes, I want to help mentality. My mom just doesn't say no to anybody. A neighbor can show up and be like, I'm going to Florida for 2 weeks. Can you watch my dogs? And she'd be like, sure. Just because she's got this like, yeah, I want to help out. And then she realizes, oh, maybe that was kind of a big thing I just committed to. And I've learned that from her. But I haven't really thought about the circle of love that you just talked about, never heard it identified like that, of being able to receive. And we receive when we feel we're worthy of it, not worthy of it like, yes, give me my love now, I've earned it. But like worthy is like, I'm ready to receive it. And I feel I am worthy to receive your love, right?
So your mantra might be, I allow myself to know I'm worthy to receive. And then what I tell people when we're creating a new belief and the worthiness piece, but is to track evidence of it. So if you write down, I allow myself to know I'm worthy to receive, and you say it, and receive is in capital letters, remember, track evidence daily of receiving. And receiving can be simple. It could be you're in the grocery store line and somebody says, oh, you go first. Instead of saying, no, thanks, say, oh, thank you, I'm in a hurry. Or just, oh, thank you. But track evidence, first of all, track evidence of worthiness every day, knowing that you're worthy. And then at the specific areas that you're not worthy in, track evidence of that. So for you, I would recommend you track receiving.
Yeah, this is so good. Well, we're going to follow up with this personally one-on-one. I'm going to have you back on the show again. I know we only have a couple minutes. We both have other interviews and places, but yeah, I want whatever you wanted to
I just
wrap
want to
up
go back
with,
to the cancer healing journey too. I totally changed my diet, went to a plant-based diet. I exercise, I hike all the time. Cancer can't survive in a well-oxygenated body.
Yeah.
So I became an avid hiker, which I wasn't before, and I love it.
Yeah. I had a whole another part of this interview I wanted to do, talk about your health. And I love seeing you hiking and you're biking and you're out there doing it. And that inspires me too. I just have a quick question. I know I literally have like 1 more minute together, is when you did all this naturally, right? And obviously you were able to cure it or get through your cancer. Did you have a doctor checkup moment where they were just looking at you like you were almost like it was a miracle, really? Did that happen or not so much?
It's a very lonely journey because they don't really support what you're doing in conventional medicine. It's extremely painful.
So they didn't want to acknowledge that you were able to do that without all of the medicine.
No.
Okay.
I did have a wonderful doctor in Arizona who went holistic, but she was an MD. And when she did my body scan at year 5, and she said, we've never seen a scan like this before, how good your body looks right now.
Yeah.
So, but conventional medicine does not approve what I did.
No, that's crazy. If anybody wants to, maybe they're going through a similar situation, can they go to your website and connect with you? Maybe get a little bit of assistance one-on-one.
I give a 30-minute complimentary consult to anybody.
Okay. Yeah, guys, if you're going through it and maybe you're, I'm not knocking doctors here, but if you're not getting kind of the information that's supporting you doing something similar to what Gail's doing, reach out and she can lead you in the right direction.
And it doesn't have to be either or. It can be both.
It could be both.
Conventional and do these beautiful alternative things.
Totally. Really well said. This is amazing. I learned a lot from you. I always do every time we talk, whether it's 5 minutes, an hour, an interview. I'd love to get a cup of coffee with you in person soon. I know you're enjoying the sunshine down in South Carolina, right?
North Carolina.
Yeah. So I'd love to come visit you. Maybe when it's snowing in Buffalo, I'll make the trip.
Awesome.
So Gail Jones, ladies and gentlemen, Coach Gail Jones, check her out. ClaimYourWorthiness.com. And she has it right behind you. If you guys are watching on YouTube, you know that already. She's got the word grateful over her shoulder. And I always end every episode with this: be great and be grateful. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Mike. It was great being with you today.
I'd like to give a huge shout out to everyone for tuning in, especially those who listen all the way to the end to hear this message. Seriously, I appreciate you, and my guests do as well. Giving a quick reminder to subscribe to this show. It's completely free and will allow you to receive notifications when new episodes are released. If you'd like to provide a tip as a gift, you can do so via patreon.com/mikedup. It's spelled MIKED up. Patreon.com/mikedup. You can give as little as $1 per month or as much as you'd like. Every dollar is greatly appreciated and completely unexpected. Appreciate your reviews and your messages coming in on social as well. Keep them coming. Your feedback is valuable and absolutely means the world to me. You can check out more episodes and content at mikeduppodcast.com. We're powered by Social Chameleon. You can also follow me on Instagram. That's where I'm the most active, and it's at Mike DiCiccio, MIKEDICIOCCIO. Thank you so much for your continued support. You guys know what to do. Be great and be grateful.